Chapter 6. Guests at Thornfield Hall. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived for Mrs. Fairfax. "Mr. Rochester will return on Thursday," Mrs. Fairfax said. "Some of his friends will come here with him. There will be many guests at Thornfield Hall." On Thursday evening, Mrs. Fairfax, Adele and I were in Adele's bedroom. Mrs. Fairfax was looking out of the window. "The guests are arriving now," Mrs. Fairfax said. I went to the window and I looked out. There were 3 carriages. 2 people were riding horses. Mr. Rochester was riding his big black horse. A beautiful young woman was riding a white horse. Mrs. Fairfax pointed to the young woman. "That is Miss Ingram," the housekeeper said. Then she went downstairs. Adele wanted to go downstairs too. "No, Adele," I said. "We cannot go downstairs tonight. Mr. Rochester is talking to his guests." The next day, Mrs. Fairfax came into the schoolroom. "Mr. Rochester wants you to meet his guests tonight, Miss Eyre," she said. "Adele must meet them too." Later, Adele and I went quietly into the sitting room. And soon 8 ladies came into the room. One of them was tall, dark, and very beautiful. She was Blanche Ingram. Adele ran towards her. "Good evening, beautiful lady," she said in French. "What a pretty little girl," Blanche Ingram said. Miss Ingram spoke to the other ladies, and she spoke to Adele, but she did not speak to me. Half an hour later, the gentleman came into the room. I looked at Mr. Rochester. He saw me, but he did not speak to me. Miss Ingram pointed at Adele. "Why doesn't this little girl live at school, Mr. Rochester?" she asked. "Adele learns her lessons at home," Mr. Rochester replied. "She has a governess." "Oh, yes, that small woman by the window," Miss Ingram said. "I had many governesses. I hated all of them. They were all ugly and stupid." Later, Miss Ingram and Mr. Rochester sang some songs together. Mr. Rochester had a fine voice. I listened to the songs. Then I left the room. Mr. Rochester followed me. "What is wrong, Jane?" he asked. "Nothing is wrong, sir," I said. "But I am tired. I am going to my room. Good night, sir." "You are tired. And you are unhappy too," Mr. Rochester replied. "There are tears in your eyes. Rest now, Jane. But please come and meet my guests tomorrow evening. Don't forget, Jane." The guests stayed at Thornfield Hall for 2 weeks. Every evening, I went to the sitting room with Adele. Nobody spoke to me. Mr. Rochester and Miss Ingram were always together.